Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie. Today is the second week in October, and I wanted to talk with you about something that is really important, especially here in the western United States for this time of year. Now, if you are in Utah, a lot of the communities have secondary water. And if you have secondary water, that means that the city will be turning off the water. Sorry about the wind. The city will be turning off the water here very shortly. Usually they start turning it off about the 15th of October. Now, that is absolutely fine for the lawn. Most of your established shrubs, most of your established perennials, they're all going to be going to sleep anyway. But there are some plants that are going to need a little bit of extra water. Now let's go around my yard and I'm going to show you some of the plants that are going to need a good deep drink before the water is shut off. So what we have here first is conifers. If you have pines, if you have spruces, especially the firs, you need to give them a good deep drink. Several places around the outside of the canopy. Make sure the soil is wet at least a foot deep. And what I'm going to do on this hill is that is all on a drip line. My junipers that make a great cover on this hill, helps avoid any erosion. The aspens that are really looking sickly right now, I'm going to have those removed, but so I don't get a lot of sprouts come up. All of this hill is going to get a good deep drink of water to tide it over the winter. Now, if you've had a wet year and the soil is moist, you don't need to worry about this as much. But in our state, in Utah, and several of the states in the western United States, there's been a prolonged drought. That means that the water reservoirs are depleted, and if you don't get water on these trees before the ground freezes, you're going to set them up for failure next year. It weakens the tree and makes them more susceptible to borers and different kinds of insects and diseases. Now this hill over here, there's only two plants that I'm going to worry about, and that's my globe blue spruces. Now the globe blue spruces, I have this hose right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let's go up here and show you. I have my hose. I'm going to leave it at a trickle. I'll turn it down a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it on this hill for about 2 hours on each tree and let this water slowly soak down in so these don't have problems over the winter. Another area that I'm going to water in is any newly planted trees, no matter what variety they are. I have my newly planted pistachio tree here that's doing really well. Now, it may get some water from the soaker hose, but I want to make sure it's watered really well. So I'll probably soak this one more time. The apple trees down here do not get soaked by the soaker hose. They get lawn water. Now they've been watered quite well through the lawn sprinklers. My lawn sprinklers have been off for about a week, but I may just come up here to the top of the hill and water them from the top down just to make sure this side isn't dry and they don't go into the winter with dry roots up at the top. Now I'm not going to worry about any of these plants through here. Most of them are very well established and have been watered well through the lawn watering. And this bed over here has a good soaker hose system that, I deeply soaked this area already. And a lot of these plants are going to be removed as I redo my yard for next year. But there is one area where I'm going to turn the soaker hoses on again for a bit before they get turned off. And that is this area with all my newly planted plants. These plants are all new this year. Plus I have my spruce, my weeping blue spruce, that I want to make sure it doesn't go into the winter dry. So I'll probably soak this area one more time really well. And then just keep an eye on it over the winter. And if there are any plants that I know need extra water, I will be sure and water them. So now, as I said in the front yard, if you have any newly planted plants, especially trees, Go give them a bucket of water once a month if we don't see any moisture over the winter. Also with your evergreen trees, especially if they're large, it might be a little difficult, but several buckets of water will help if your hose bibs are frozen and you can't turn the water on from the outside. But the most important thing is to make sure they don't go into the winter dry. So I challenge you to get out there into your landscape, check around your landscape and see if there's anything that might need some extra water before we go into the winter. Now, if you have spruce trees in the lawn and you water very shallowly, I would take a long-handled screwdriver, a really long one, and see how deep the moisture goes. If the screwdriver doesn't go in very far, then you're going to also need to add extra water onto your evergreens that are in the lawn. So get out there, make sure they go into the winter moist so they can come out of the winter healthy, and go have a wonderful Garden Wise adventure.